Welcome back to the PFPod, the podcast where we break down the action, strategy, and excitement of robotic competitions like FIRST and beyond.
From last-minute pit fixes to championship-winning plays, we're here to talk about what makes robotics more than just a competition.
Whether you're a builder, a coder, driver, or just love the energy of a great event, we got stories, insights, and maybe a few battle scars to share.
So let's gear up, dive in, and talk about the world of competitive robotics. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the PFPod. For those who don't know me, I'm Sam, and I'm an environmental science major and the outgoing media director of PFP. And I've been involved with FIRST for about a decade. In this episode, we have a very special guest I'm excited to introduce, but do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Amy. I'm currently the outgoing vice president of PFP. I've been in FIRST for about 10 years now, and I'm currently a junior studying civil engineering with a concentration in both geotechnical and structural engineering.
That's awesome. So this episode, Amy and I are going to kind of dig into grad school, why you may want to go to grad school, and kind of how to get your foot into the door. So let's get into it. Amy, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, of course. First, some jargon can get confusing, so let's clarify everything. Post-grad programs vary, but usually it's more classes or research done after you graduate with your bachelor's or your typical four-year degree. The length of the program can vary, but regardless, it's usually more intense and is a perfect time to apply all your educational skills you built up over your undergrad program. Obviously, this can change per person or line of study, but for the most part, pathways usually consist of bachelor's to master's to PhD or a doctorate.
Yes. I know I was confused for a while about grad pathways. I always kind of thought you needed to get a master's before your PhD, but in some fields that's not the case. You can go straight into your doctorate program. But we are both exploring master's programs, so that's kind of where we're going to be coming from. Most people also work before they go to master's programs. You don't have to go straight from college or your undergrad into a grad program. Partly due to like finances and loans, it can be really expensive, but also it gives people an opportunity to like build their skills and determine what they want to study before going into such an intense program. One piece of advice I've heard from other graduate students is do not go into a master's program without knowing exactly what you're interested in. It's a pretty intense program, and if you aren't passionate about what you're going to do, you're not going to be happy. And I'm fortunate enough to be like super passionate about microplastics and solid waste management inequalities, and I can't really imagine not researching that as my career, so if you have any advice you've heard, let me know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Sam. Being passionate about what you're studying is going to be important because it's going to be at least 2 more years of school, if not more. Especially, and you're going to get even more specialized in what you're wanting to study. So, Sam here would like to do the microplastics and the waste management. I personally would like to look more into foundation engineering and really focus in on how soil mechanics moves and how everything like that works. For civil engineering, getting a master's tends to be a very important step, especially if you're going into those heavier subjects like structures and geotechnical and hydraulics. But it's not everyone needs to go to grad school. It's really up to you if you want to dive deeper into that subject.
Yeah, that is very true.
So from Purdue, I originally knew I wanted to do a master's program, so I looked for places that did a 4+1 program. 4+1 program is a way for you to get your bachelor's and graduate degree within 5 years. It's a very nice program that Purdue offers, and a lot of the Big Ten schools and larger institutions will. You take just a few extra grad classes within your undergrad degree that normally double count with stuff in your undergraduate major, and then you can fit a master's degree within 1 year. Normally these don't have research with them, but there are some that do research. For engineering, I can speak on personally, there's kind of 2 paths that are appearing now. You can go the research route, you can go the professional route. I personally would like to go more the professional route because I really want to use my graduate degree to go into industry, and I'm still kind of figuring out all the gist of that, but I know Sam, yeah.
Slightly different path.
It's a slightly different path than what I'm going, so what are you kind of looking for in a graduate degree? What are you planning on pursuing?
Yeah, my program is definitely a lot different than the engineering program that Amy's describing. In my major, there is a 4+1 program where you do like the environmental science, and then you're also kind of gaining engineering. Honestly, that might not be grad school though, so I'm not really sure. But personally, I'm not doing that. I'm doing a more non-traditional but not uncommon route for grad school. I'm going abroad for a year, and half of that year is going to be classes, and the second half is going to be research program. And I personally wanted to do a year because I'm a very fast-paced person. I knew that I wanted a shorter length program, and the thing with the classes being set up for half the year, each class is only like 3 weeks long or something like that, and you focus on that one and only class for those 3 weeks, and then you take an exam and you go on to the next class. And I've done that before with my study abroad, and I loved it. Like, it gave me such a better opportunity to like really focus on that one subject instead of feeling constantly scattered like I do with my undergrad. And so if you are looking for grad school, definitely make sure like the class schedule and the pace is comfortable with you. because that can be a large change for a lot of people. I do have a quick question for you, though. The 4+1 program, is it like you're doing 4 years of your undergrad and then 1 year of grad school, or is it kind of like you're taking grad classes with your undergrad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be 4 years of your undergrad. That's pretty much traditional. Then that last year of your undergrad, you'll be both a undergraduate student and a master's student, which is a little weird, but you'll be taking just a few extra grad classes, swapping them out for like a senior level class. You just take the grad version of that instead.
That makes sense.
So then you're able to shorten that by a year.
Yeah, I've taken a few grad level classes. Not for a grad program, just
yeah.
what I happen to do. Yeah, how did you find the program that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so again, it was kind of even before coming into college, I knew I wanted to do a master's, but I know plenty of people within my major who that was not the case. They just learned they really liked the subject, and coming to Purdue and learning even more about what I wanted to do, I definitely realized, yes, I want to do a master's. I love this subject so deeply, and I want to learn as much as I can, and yes, work experience gives you that, but there's nothing compared to being in a classroom and saying, this is how this works, and you get it so much more of an expressed way. But
no, the classes are so much different than work because everyone is so passionate because they are paying to be there. They want to be there and talk about everything. It's the perfect area for discussion, and you have professionals all around you, like your professors that can help you with everything. It just, I don't know, it opens you up to many more ideas as opposed to like being in a work industry where everything has always been the same or like barely changing. Yeah.
Yes, Sam, how did you find the program you wanted to do?
Good question. I actually wasn't even sure if I wanted to do grad school in the first little bit of my college career. Because I'm in the environmental policy field, I always kind of thought I'm gonna have to go to law school. I don't know if I want to do that. But then I was kind of just thinking, I was like, actually, I can just influence policy without being in law. That is possible. And right now, there's like a huge lack of jobs in my career field, and at least in America. And so I was like, well, I might as well take a year, explore a new country, new city, while I'm also studying a topic I'm super passionate about, really gain some merits on it. And I also love research. I knew that a research-focused program would be great for me as opposed to your more industrial-focused role. There were a few programs that I found that were just classes or just research, but I think I wanted that nice in between because like I said, I really like a class, discussion-based class, and I think master's is pretty good for that. And yeah, and so I just get to apply the knowledge later, and also I'm going abroad, so I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, and 100%, finding a program that matches you is really important once you get to that master level because you're going to be sinking a lot of time into what you're learning.
So much time.
I guess moving abroad and also starting a grad program, are you nervous about any of them? Are you scared?
Yeah. So I'm about to graduate. Yay, exciting. It's going to be a huge leap going abroad, especially for a year. I've never been away from home for that long, and I'm going to be across the ocean. That's scary. And there's also a bunch of unique hurdles with this, dealing with a visa process and having to meet all new people, especially all the culture shock I'll be receiving as well, as opposed to just moving a few hours away. But honestly, I'm confident in my socialization abilities, and there's also a bunch of online apps where you can meet people in your program or in the city. And so if you are, that's not even just for abroad programs, so if you're in any type of program, don't worry about meeting new people. They're all there because you're all interested in the same thing. So don't let being introverted hold you back either from great things. Yeah, Amy, enough from me. In my career field, I've really only had to write a few personal statements. I've had a couple of professional references, academic references, submitted my CV to apply for grad school, but I didn't have to take any test or anything. And I know med students take the MCAT, law students take the LSAT. So what do engineering students do? How does your application work?
Yeah, so engineering, for civil engineering specifically, each discipline is kind of different. Civil is the oldest and it also has a responsibility to the public, is what we like to say, so we have to take exams. The first one out of college is, you normally take it as senior, right when you enter industry. It's called the Fundamentals of Engineering. Used to be called the EIT exam, Engineering and Training exam. Now it's the FE for some reason.
Okay.
But that's kind of the first out of college exam you take. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to grad school, doesn't mean you want to keep education, but it kind of is your step into the industry. The next one is called your professional engineer's license. There's a whole bunch of requirements to get this. You have to work under an engineer, and you have to take a very difficult test to be able to license, to basically sign off on plans, to say this plan is safe for the public's use. there's a lot of different routes to go to get your PE, but one of the popular ones for structures and also geotechnical engineering is to go and get your master's. So you know what's going to be on that exam and really know in depth how to solve it. While it's not necessary by all means, because you do get that hands-on experience by working under a already licensed engineer, it just makes test taking so much easier, and it is a test I think has like a 50% fail rate, so it's definitely not it's definitely not. And then if you're in California or a seismic zone, you normally have to take another exam on top of that called the SE, which is structural engineering exam, and that has an insane fail rate. I don't even know what that stat is, but that's a very specialized case. So that's one motivator. A lot of people go to grad school, but most of the time you see civil engineers really wanting to go just so they know more about, there's only so much you can fit in an undergraduate degree. It's just the reality of it. You have to get those fundamentals down. Once you get that, you can go to grad school and just really get in depth with stuff is kind of why I want to do it, and I think a lot of my peers also want to go to grad school.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the master's program for that is kind of like a training almost for the exam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little bit of a training, also getting some more of that new designs coming through, because again, industry, especially civil engineering, tend to be really slow to change stuff.
That makes sense.
So we really want to make sure everything's safe. So if you want to learn the new designs, you want to learn what's coming down in industry, you go back to grad school and you learn those things. Big thing currently is obviously climate change. There's a lot of new climate change classes coming into being, as well as like fire safety and how do you design steel to be fire resistant. So kind of more niche topics, but very interesting.
Yeah, I used to hear a lot about like the like fireproof wood that was being built for buildings. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
tree.
Yeah,
but no, that's super cool.
Yeah.
So like, do you have to build a lot of personal connections with your professors or anything to kind of help you with this program?
Yeah, so again, that's depending on what track you're going down. If you're doing research, yes, you definitely want to build those relationships with your professor. If you're doing a 4+1 program as well, the big thing they want to know is that as an undergraduate, are you able to take on the responsibilities of a grad class?
Yeah.
One way to prove that is, let me get all your references from your professors.
Mm-hmm.
Are you showing up to class? Are you going to office hours? Are you actually asking questions and not just sitting there? Because a grad program you have to be a lot more engaged than an undergraduate. So for the research, and if you're doing a 4+1, yes, absolutely. If you're doing the more industry route, not necessarily, but it's always good to have connections with professors. They can help you in so many ways. They've seen every single side of the industry. A lot of them have been around for just such a long time that it's really helpful. So.
Yeah, I'd say that's interesting. You're like, oh, you don't really even need them. Like, I'd say in my pathway, you definitely do, but I don't know if you need that close of a relationship with them. You do just kind of need to have that, like, mutual respect, as long as they know that like they can trust what information you, because like for my professor and my boss, they were my two references. I sent them like my resume, my CV, like basically everything I've ever done. I was like, ask me any questions if you want, but they've also seen my behavior in class. They know that I show up, they can trust everything I'm saying is true. And so for not personal statements, for references, like you kind of do need that connection though, because you can't really apply to any of my programs without references. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that I like spoke up in class. I'm like, I don't know what I would have done otherwise.
Yeah.
Do you guys have to write like a lot of like personal statements or anything?
You definitely need that personal statement to get into grad school, but past that I haven't had to write that many. Just generally like writing isn't a big thing we get tested on really, which I think for your major is
it's a
different.
I definitely am tested a lot more on my writing. Like a lot of the jobs I apply to, they're like, please send in a writing sample, like scientific writing, journalism writing, stuff of that sort, because it is like a lot of like public engagement. But specifically for my personal statements, my biggest advice would be like, go talk to people, get constructive criticism on it, be like, tear this essay apart. I've personally had like my friends go over it, I've had my professors go over it, and I'm pretty confident in my personal statement. Like, I mean, I got into grad school, so I'm pretty proud of it. But I think they're so, like, writing does come easy to me, but I do feel like they're pretty simple, but that doesn't mean that they're not important. Like, they are very important to your process. You should not overlook them. I would honestly say give yourself a month minimum to draft and write one, because you're also going to have to write a bunch of different ones if you're applying to a bunch of different schools. I think I wrote maybe like 5 different personal statements, all based on my one foundation one. And one thing that I really learned during that process was like, don't use your personal statement as a way to be like, oh, look, I'm the best student. Like, you really want me at your school. Like, that's not what they're looking for. They're not looking for someone who's like snooty and overconfident. Sort of. Like, they do want someone who is able to discuss why they're a good candidate. They want someone who is interested in that topic of study that they're applying for. But you really want to like convince the school that they can be a vessel of success for you and you can be a vessel of success for them. And so, for example, my personal statement, I basically said something like, I've always been interested in environmental justice because I grew up next to one of America's most polluted rivers. It's a pretty marginalized community, and I wanted to be kind of like I want to help change that. I like using data to support practical solutions, and I'm drawn to community research or community-based research. This specific lab at this specific school can help me deepen my quality of research, support my career goals, and your unique environmental features like wetlands can offer a setting for applied research. Like, find a reason for everything. And then I kind of follow that with like, here are some things I learned in my undergrad, like how to sample soil, and here's a professional achievement that I support or that supports my claim that I like community-based research. Like, you want to be able to prove everything you're saying as well. And you can also always talk to like a career center too. They usually help. Just making sure you're answering all parts of the prompt, because like I said, like I wrote like a bunch of different personal statements and they all changed by the school, but yeah, for the most part, you're just selling yourself to the school and saying, I'm the best candidate because you have the resources that I can use to support your research. But yeah, personal statements are important.
Yes, absolutely, they definitely are. They are kind of the basis of your graduate application, where for undergrad it's kind of more, here's what I did in high school, here's all the things.
Yeah.
Your grad school is like, how well did you write this and how can you really explain those ideas?
That actually, good point, the high school personal statements when you're applying to college initially, like, I feel like a lot of people write, like, sob stories, and they're like, oh, my life has been really hard, and this school really, like, changed my life. Universities for grad school are not looking for that. They want to know that you are passionate, and you can do a job, and you're going to do the job. That's what they want to know. They don't need to know your history, like, a little bit of that personal, like, I grew up near this polluted river, and that's why I'm passionate. But that relates specifically to my concentration of study. That's what they want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that, like, your GPA matters a lot? Because I've heard a few people in PFP say that your GPA doesn't matter if you want, like, a job or anything, but, like, I know the GPA matters a lot for, like, grad schools because they want to know that they're getting some pretty good students. This being said, my GPA is not the highest in the world, and I'm going to a pretty good grad school. So don't stress yourself out too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, how does it kind of work for you guys?
No, 100%. It's definitely very dependent on how, like, full the grad school is, how bad it is for admissions. So, not bad, I guess, how competitive it is for admissions.
I know what you mean.
But generally the rule that I've heard is try to keep it above a 3.0 if you can. If you want to go to grad school, for sure. Obviously, the higher the better. But as Sarah mentioned earlier, yeah, if you were trying to get an internship, GPA doesn't matter quite as much. It's more about the projects you've done and the things you've done. And with that, also, if you're going for that research route, showing the research you've done as an undergraduate researcher is huge. I've known a lot of people who've gotten into universities, grad programs, just because they said, oh yeah, I do some research down at Purdue. And they're like, no GPA needed, yeah, that's amazing. We never get students who do that. So that's a really, if you're interested in wanting to do a master's, wanting to do that research path, definitely get involved. I know Purdue makes it very easy, and a lot of other big schools do as well.
Yeah. Another part of emailing professors, they also aren't always the professors you've had in class. They might not even be the ones that go to your school. For example, one of the colleges or universities I was applying for, I had to find a specific professor that would, like, sponsor my research, which basically just means, like, they would help guide me in that process. And it was, like, a staff of 15 professors. So I had to find, out of those 15 professors, like, 3 professors whose educational goals aligned even barely similar to mine. Not a lot of people study waste management. That one was hard. But finding people that like environmental justice and stuff, that was hard. But I found them. I have to email them. I have to be like, here are all of my things, my writing samples, my CV. Here's why I'm interested in your work and how you can help me. Again, like, you're trying to sell each other to each other. And honestly, like, most of them don't respond. Like, they're very busy. So if you do have a situation like that, like, email them so far ahead of time. If you're going to go to grad school, like, research before the application time opens, because you're going to need months to work on your stuff, because also, like, you will have to wait for them to email back. I did have a meeting with one guy, and it was just kind of like, he was just like, do you have any questions for me in the program? And I was like, ooh, no, like, I was not prepared. Not going to that university, but honestly, that's fine with me. So just, like, learn how to write emails too, because I recently heard that people don't know how to do that. And in this day and age, you need to know how to write an email. So learn how to write an email the professors, have everything months in advance, like, know what you want to do. That's, biggest takeaways.
Yeah, no, 100%. And emailing is such an important part of just college life generally. The amount of emails I send, I'm very glad I learned how to professionally write an email. Actually, it was through robotics that I learned how to write an email. I did not, that was never a course I took. It was just, but I feel like I can get up.
In like 5th grade, they taught us how to write a letter, and I was like, this is close
enough. Hey, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also I made the mistake of starting my application really late because I didn't realize the due date I had.
Yeah,
so me already having connections with the professors I asked was huge because they're like, yes, this is really tight, but I can get it done. That's fine.
Yeah.
If I didn't know them, no shot they would have responded.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's also a huge thing. If you're asking someone to write you a reference letter, give them try your best to give them as much time as possible to write a letter. Do not ask week of. That is so rude. They will not want to do that. Because, they do have to, they're telling you, or they're telling your college that you're a good student, and they can honestly say whatever they want in that reference letter. They could be like, okay, I wrote you a stunning reference letter, and you're like, oh, perfect. And you will never know what it says. It could be like, this student never showed up to class, they sucked.
Yeah.
So show up to class, don't suck. But yeah, definitely give them time beforehand. And for I had to have them write multiple letters because they each had to write one for each school I applied to. So I was like, here's the list of schools I'm applying to. I'll let you know 2 weeks ahead of time when I need it or something like that. And sometimes they'd forget, and I'd be like, night of, I'm like, please submit it. So yeah, make sure you also have a good connection with these people because you will be sending emails over and over again. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to talk about grad school-wise?
Not really.
If you could look back on your younger self, do you have any advice for her?
A lot, but
Yeah.
I'd probably say always get involved in stuff. That's the biggest thing. I was pretty heavily involved in high school, but it was always one thing I'd do.
Yeah.
I think trying a lot of different things is helpful to grow yourself, even if you don't love it, and just learn about, meet new people, learn new things. It's definitely important.
I think that also, getting involved, it shows that you're, willing to make an impact around you, and that's what grad school is all about, at least the path I'm doing.
Yeah,
So, yeah, get involved. We have episodes on that. Take a peek. Yeah. I'm just going to throw in there that this whole episode is about me graduating soon. I'm about to graduate, yay! This is my last PFPod, but I'm very grateful to have gotten to work on this, long-term project, and I really loved my 7 semesters in PFP. And I'm very grateful for all of the community and friends that I've made along the way, both at competitions and the org, and then also adjacent people as well. I want to shout out my media team because you guys, PFPod would not be possible without them. And I want to thank to all of our listeners and supporters, also would not be possible without you guys. And this has been a very unique and fun experience, and it's also, honestly, looks pretty good on the resume. So I'm excited, but yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone. And this being said,
PF parting is such sweet sorrow,
and we'll see you next time.